a lot of assets. They might own taxi firms, they may own rental houses. The response to it was that he was hounded. You know what the story is going to be. A number of Labour MPs will lose their seats, people with small majorities. And the irony is we will get more Islamists.
And local girls will say to me, I'm not working in that shop, I'm not working on that market stall, because those Asian men can't keep their hands to themselves. Hi everybody, and welcome back to Nick Talks. This episode's amazing guest is a lady who started the Brexit Party. You heard me correct, the Brexit Party. That wasn't Nigel Farage. And if you want more information on this, you need to check out our next podcast. That probably comes out a week from now. But let me introduce you my new guest, Katherine Blakelock. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you.
So what I was saying just then, I wasn't joking. You did set up the Brexit Party.
Correct. In fact, I bought the name, the Brexit Party, at least a year before it was used. This was during the era of Henry Bolton, when he'd been installed. I mean, he's turned out to be a good guy now, but at that time he was installed in UKIP and UKIP was doing nothing at all. And so I was really fed up with the situation. And so I bought a lot of names. That wasn't the only name I bought. I bought Alternative for Britain, Our Country, Our Land, Our Country, Our People, Our Country, all these sort of things, with the aim of setting up another political party.
Right. Extremely interesting. Now, we're going to talk about that on another day. But today, I wanted to talk to you about something that's very relevant at the moment, because it's been in the press, I mean, for years, but it hit the press again last evening because Keir Starmer has finally announced a public inquiry into the grooming gang scandal, which is the biggest shame on the reputation of this country ever, by far. Not so much the crimes themselves, which were horrendous, but many men commit many horrendous crimes. What was different about this one was the political cover-up, the covering up of the rape and the abuse of children by politicians at many levels, not because they agreed with it, but because of cowardice and because they just wanted votes and be elected back into power, or to get elected in the first place. Now, you've been working on an adjacent part of this, which is looking at private prosecutions of the evil men that did the raping. And when you texted me the other day, you said something that I've not heard of before. And it was about having those men themselves pay for what they did. Now, some have been to jail, some haven't. But when you said pay for what they've done, you meant it. You meant let the victims take their houses and take their bank accounts and basically sue them. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Let me preface this by saying that there's a really unsung hero in all of this, which is Robin Tilbrook, who you probably know or you know of.
I spoke to him last week on my radio show on The Pulse.
Yeah, well, the interesting thing about the timing of the announcement by Keir Starmer, and I'm not sure if you know this, but in January, Robin put the first paper's approach to Vet Cooper about a judicial review to force a public inquiry, and then he put the papers in, and the deadline is tomorrow at midnight. Do you know that?
No.
Well, so by tomorrow, the government has to answer why they will not hold a public inquiry, or it will they have to answer those judicial review papers. So the timing is quite interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, so it looks like Keir Starmer has preempted that and preempted the Casey report, which has come out today, which I've not looked at yet.
So there were these two things coincide almost to the day.
Yeah, I mean, we're not me and you, but as a country, we're in a mess with this. And this isn't just a Labour problem. 14 years of Tories, did nothing on this. And they now have the cheek to say, we need a public inquiry. I mean...
Well, I would also argue that 25 years of Nigel Farage did nothing too.
Yes, yeah, I don't recall him.
I mean, he knew more about it probably than even the Conservatives did, because people would tell him.
Yeah, yeah, because he was running UKIP at the time. There was lots of what we would call normal people in UKIP, people from these cities, these towns. And it was an open secret. I've known about it for decades. I've been fighting for it for 20 years, fighting against it for 20 years, but I knew about it before that. It was the 1970s when I was a child, and local girls would say to me, I'm not working in that shop, I'm not working on that market stall, because those Asian men can't keep their hands to themselves. And so I was told as a child that this type of thing was going on, and it was common in 1970s
Where
Manchester.
did you grow up?
A council estate in South Manchester called Longsight.
Okay, because the very first person who was also a hero is Roy Hunniford. Do you know of him?
No.
Right. What's really interesting about this history is people who died for this cause, people who were completely destroyed, are now not known. So Roy Hunniford was the very first person who recognized that there was a problem with Asian Muslims in Bradford. And he was a headmaster of a senior school, and he started complaining about the fact that girls couldn't do swimming. Muslim girls were not allowed to participate in many activities, and that there was a segregation problem and a generalized problem. And the person who you probably have heard was Roger Scruton Roger Scruton, the philosopher who's now died, and the book writer. And he at that time was running the Salisbury Review, and they broke that story and did a number of articles. This was in the 70s. And the response to it was that he was hounded. You know what the story is going to be. He was hounded. He was considered a racist. He was dismissed. And I believe he committed suicide eventually. So that's how we treated people.
Oh yeah, I mean when people say, we need to do something about this, you're right, people have been trying to do something about this for decades and decades. And it wasn't that long ago, last year probably, where senior Labour politicians were saying, if you talk about this, you're racist. It wasn't that long ago where Labour politicians were telling us this doesn't exist. This is a far right trope. And then we proved it happens. And then their next excuse was, it may happen, but there's such tiny percentages. And then the next thing last year was, we need to pay all these girls compensation. And the Labour Party goes, there's too many of them, we can't afford it. It's gone from didn't happen, it's only a few of them, to we can't afford compensation because
they should shut up for the sake of diversity.
Yeah, absolutely disgraceful. Now, the thing I wanted to jump to then was, you said one of the victims of the grooming gangs has been successful in court, looking for compensation. I don't know anything about that. Can you tell me about that?
Right. Well, by definition, there's been one case so far, and by definition, these cases are private. By that, there will be settlements and there will be terms in settlements, which means there are two reasons why there's no publicity on this. Number one is Robin Tilbrook is an amazing lawyer, but he doesn't always do social media and things that well. Given that he's been around for 40 years, he's not very well known. He doesn't really have a social media presence. So he's really a great guy who concentrates on the law. So that's what he's really interested in. And then the second point is, of course, that these are private. And the terms of these things will be kept private, because that, by definition, is how generally private prosecutions and settlements work, that there will be non-disclosure agreements. But that has been successful in one case, and there are plans to do other cases. Now, the interesting thing about these groomers, as we know from Sammy Woodhouse's book, Just a Child, is that the ringleaders of these people are not poor, indigent people. They are often quite high-powered with a lot of assets. They might own taxi firms, they may own rental houses, they often are part of the community, and they, by definition, and I think Tommy Robinson was tweeted today about this mafia. So they have resources to call on, and there's money swishing around. And it wouldn't be surprising if some of them collected money as pimps from the girls as well. So, these houses in the north are obviously not worth as much as in the south, but they're still worth considerable amounts. So I think that money, in fact, hurts even more than than jail. It affects everybody, and so that is the aim. And there are things going on behind the scenes at the moment to do further looking at who's been prosecuted, who's been jailed, who's been found guilty, and what sort of assets have they got. And obviously, like all prosecutions and all suing things, there's no point doing something for people who've got no assets. That's how it works in the legal world.
I love the sound of this. I love the sound of going after these pervert criminals' assets. First of all, it compensates the victims, their victims, because they need compensating, of course they do. But it also sends a message, doesn't it? Doesn't it send a great message around the country that if you abuse our children, we're going to strip you of your assets. We're going to take your house. We're going to take your Bentley.
Or your takeaways or whatever.
Exactly. We're going to take all of them off you and we're going to give that money to your victims. We always look for justice. That sounds like justice to me. It really does. You made these girls suffer. Now you're going to suffer. And let's be honest, it's also going to impact their families and their children. Now, nothing like those other children were impacted, but it's still going to impact their family and children. And that's part of the punishment. And we need that. I mean, our criminal justice system is a mess anyway. It's been failing for decades on everybody, not just this topic, but we need something. And if they've got assets, then you're more likely to get solicitors, barristers involved because they can see how they're getting paid. Sounds a bit callous, but people have jobs and it's a job to be a solicitor.
And also sometimes you'll get a settlement without it going to court. I mean, people, when you start to have papers served on you, many people will negotiate at that point. It'll be cheaper for them, it'll be less embarrassing, and they can come to a settlement. The problem with the justice system is, I mean, I don't know if you're aware, but there's a 3-year wait in the small claims court at the moment. So we effectively have no justice.
Yeah, the whole thing's failing for many reasons.
You can write an email to the small claims court and they won't answer you for 6 months or something. Or they don't answer at all.
Yeah, I mean, here's a question for you. Does anything work in our public sector in the UK? Can you name one thing that works?
Yes, I can name one thing.
Please, go on.
That I think is actually really good, but that's probably because they hate electricity companies. The electricity ombudsman works really well. I don't know if you ever dealt with them.
No, I haven't.
Extraordinary quick, efficient, polite, and you get not lots of compensation, but they'll offer you £50 and it all gets done in about 2 weeks, and they phone you up and they give you a decision, and it's brilliant. It's how public services should work.
Fantastic. Well, let's try to identify that man or woman who runs it, and let's have a campaign to get them promoted a lot higher up the chain of somewhere, so they can take that learning and that professionalism into something more important, because we desperately need it. Now, I know you said the private prosecution, things have to remain confidential. Is there anything extra you can say on that won't breach those terms, just in general?
Well, there's a group of people who are looking at raising more money to do it. That's what I can say, but I can't really say anything else in the moment.
Right. Okay. I won't push you on that.
There are many cases that would work. We know that. There are many cases which have been identified.
Well, I suppose the low-hanging fruit are the people who have already been convicted, because...
Well, yes, but it's also convicted and who they are and what they are.
Yeah. But I mean, if you've already got a conviction of this and you've got assets, that's a slam dunk. It's harder. It'll be harder and more costly for the men who it doesn't reach the bar of criminal law, but it might reach the bar of civil law, and so those ones are a bit more complicated. But to get some quick wins and some nice easy donks to not prosecute, to basically fine and maybe bankrupt some of these men, I'd be very, very happy with that.
Yeah, I mean, let me just give another shout out on something different. You obviously know of the Free Speech Union.
Remember?
I don't know if you know about the Workers for England Union. Have you ever heard of them?
I hadn't until recently, because I spoke to Graham Moore on this podcast.
Right, okay. Yes, but Graham Moore is not part of the English Democrats anymore. You know that he's got his own company, own party.
Yeah, is English Constitution now.
Yes, but he's separated from them completely. So the Workers of England Union is run by Robin Tilbrook of the English Democrats.
Right.
Okay, but the thing is that they started in force when they did the COVID with COVID. I mean, I think they have now 5 employees, with people getting dismissed for refusing to have the jab. But they then went on to they've done free speech cases, including one with a very high profile academic who got a lot of compensation. And the point about the way that they work is you don't hear about it. Because again, these compensation packets, if you've got a compensation package from a university, or it's a confidentiality agreement. But there's an important thing for your listeners to know. If you do get into trouble, and I spoke to Ben from Ben on Wine, you've probably seen him on Twitter. He lost his job with Waitrose. But he lost his job because he was advised by the Free Speech Union, who are not a union, they're not a trade union, to go public. Now, once you go public, you will lose your job. The Workers of England Union is a proper union. It can go in with you to your employee when a solicitor cannot, and it can get you to keep your job. So if you are in trouble and you have a job, it's that type of free speech case. Approach the Workers of England Union, who are a proper union, who will represent you to help you not lose your job and maybe get you a settlement. But, for many people, they want to keep their job. That's the aim of the exercise.
Yeah, of course.
Give a shout out to that. Yeah.
No, absolutely. The more of these organizations we've got, the better. Because it's not like we're awash with these organizations who are constantly touting for custom, because there's enough custom out there. We need more of these organizations, and these organizations need to grow to do more fantastic work. We now at the moment have Rupert Lowe MP. He's well, up to yesterday, he was starting a public inquiry into the grooming gangs. We've got Maggie Oliver, who has raised money now because she wants to take some individuals to court, such as senior police, council staff, and stuff like that. All these things need doing. That combines, I mean, let's be honest, I don't have much trust in Keir Starmer's national inquiry. Because he'll want to write the terms of reference. He'll want to make sure it limits the damage on him and his party and the political establishment as well. And then your group, people you're involved with, are doing some private prosecutions. Are we turning the corner on this stain? Is it, we could never cover this up again now. Do you think we're going to get to the end of it where we finally uncover and highlight the people who failed? Because what I want to see some senior police officers in dock. Same with council managers, children's services, politicians. I want some in the dock. And if we can prove they were guilty of turning a blind eye, or misconduct in office, or doing things just for votes, I want to see some in jail. This was an end for me until some of them are in jail. Because until that happens, this stuff can carry on happening in different fields. The same with the post office masters and other scandals we've had. They happen because public servants know, I'll basically get away with this. We never end up in jail. We never get sacked. We never get our pension stripped. I'll just take the easy option. I want them to change their behaviour by us ensuring that they're scared of the public once again.
I think we will have some progress on the grooming gangs. I think it's going to have another effect, which is that I think a number of Labour MPs will lose their seats, people with small majorities. And the irony is we will get more Islamists and more Muslim MPs. So that's what I predict is going to be the result of this. We'll get rid of some, and we'll then get another result, which we don't particularly like either.
I think more Islamists in Parliament, even on the outset, is a bad thing, but I think we need to see it. I think things need to get worse in this country. I think more people need to wake up and see what's going on. And having more Islamists in Parliament, that's not the same as me saying more Muslims. That's not me the same as saying more brown people. I'm talking about Islamists. The difference is these people want a Islamist Great Britain. They want to separate. They want gender separate. So these aren't necessarily just normal Muslims. I've not got a problem with whatever religion you want to practice, but Islamist is a political ideology, and that's what I've got a problem with. And hopefully people will open their eyes and go, we're in trouble here, aren't we? Immigration is out of control. The lack of integration and assimilation and no-go areas and two-tier policing, because the people are not angry enough yet. We're getting there, but we're not angry enough yet.
Yeah, and also what bothers me as well is the state of the civil service and the judiciary. I mean, we're not going to remove those people easily. And that's where the rot in the country really is.
How do we remove those people? I mean, the first answer is we need a different political party to take charge. It's not going to be Labour. It's not going to be the Tories. So we need new blood. We need a new party. But whoever gets in, even if they wanted to do it, as you said, it's a huge fight, isn't it? It's a huge fight, taking on the blob, taking on vested interest, taking on basically anyone in the public sector, because at this moment in time, they're unsackable. They should be sacked, many of them, but they're unsackable at the moment. It would need a Margaret Thatcher's against the miners' union type of mentality, type of battle, type of strategy. Do we have anyone who's capable of any of that? Who's got the back?
My view is the only person who's capable is Rupert Lowe, and unfortunately, at the moment, he doesn't have a party. But we will see where that goes.
Yeah, I sort of agree with that. Rupert Lowe is the MP who's impressed me the most, I would say, in a generation. A politician who's actually in Parliament. He's impressed me the most. His questions, his doggedness, how he uses parliamentary privilege to ask questions and demand answers. He's the one who started getting us all these stats of breakdowns of ethnicity, for crimes, for benefits. And you think to yourself, if one man can do that, why has no one else done this over decades and decades? And the answer is, he's an older man. He's a self-made man. He's a millionaire. He's never looking at, I need to get elected again. He's never looking at, I need a better job in Parliament. He's only ever going, what's best for the country? And we need more people like that. And people who are poor can do that.
Yeah, I sent a tweet out, which I asked Rupert Lowe as well. Do you know who Keith Simpson is? Do you know who Keith Simpson is?
No.
Well, he was an MP, I believe, for 22 years. He used to be my MP. He was an MP in Broadland. He only resigned. He only left in 2024, I think. No, he might have left in 2019, but very recently. And he'd been an MP for 22 years. And he'd done nothing. Nothing. He's a Conservative. He'd been in Mid Norfolk and Broadland. The only thing he was recognised for was he had a chubby face and little round glasses. 22 years as an MP.
Let me correct you there. He did lots of things. Unfortunately, it was everything the Tory party told him to do. He was just, sounds like he was a stooge. That's how he kept his seat. That's how he was always elected to stand again. Because party HQ were going, we love this guy. He votes the way we want to vote. He doesn't talk about topics we don't want to talk about. He does as he's told. That's a great MP at Tory HQ.
Yeah.
But we need to get away from that. If you ever come up with the answer about how we get away from that, let me know and I'll get you straight back on and we'll break the news about how we get away from this. Katherine, lovely talking to you today. And hopefully we'll catch up next couple of days because I want to know the Brexit Party story. I really want to know about that.
Thank you.
Thanks, Katherine. Bye bye.
Bye bye.